We're starting to get a little bit of movement back in here on these markets after that supply or stocks and acres report here on Monday. We want to cover a minimum price contract strategy, and keep in mind this is something to consider when you're looking at the third plan. This would be something that would cover that option portion of that strategy. If that's something you're interested in. So, as always, keep in mind everything we're discussing is for education and example purposes. Make sure you guys understand and know your own risk tolerance as we go through the material here. So minimum price contract is really simple. Okay, what you're doing is you're selling cash. You could sell the board, and at the same time, you're coming back and buying a call option to stay and hold that long position. Now, your main advantages of doing something like this is that you get to stay long the market. But for us, the key critical point here is that you're also moving to a fixed risk downside. In other words, you're setting a price floor. Okay. And this covers the what if you're wrong process of marketing, right? So while it's okay to be bullish and stay long the market, if you're wrong, you now have a price floor in place on the bushels rather than being open to further downside risk. Now, the biggest disadvantage of a strategy like this is you're probably not going to get that penny for penny movement that you would if you were just holding the grain long outright. Then you're probably going to have to budget some money for margin. Really, the key question I think that's going to come down to whether you or not you want to implement this strategy is what sort of move do you want to be on board for? Are you looking to just kind of capture that 30-cent move, and that might trigger you to look at more of an at the money call option? Or are you looking to be on board for maybe more of the dollar move? And that's where you can go a little bit further out of the money. And we'll highlight that here with soybeans. So using soybeans as an example, let's say the no futures price gets back up to that 1065 area. You decide to make a cash sale there. You're going to cover about 5,000 bushels. At the same time, you go to the board and buy a November 25 1160 call. That's going to run you about 24 cents. Now, how that's going to work out for you here is you now have a price floor established at 1041 futures on those 5,000 bushels, and then that call isn't going to really kick in until price gets above 1160. And then keep in mind on that 24 cents, you're going to budget about $1,200 here for that option premium. That's not going to include commissions and fees. So as we flip over to a chart, this is your weekly continuous Nova bean chart. We've got these two lines highlighted on here. You can see that first bottom yellow line, that's going to be your price floor. Now, again, this is under the assumption that beans can get back to 1065. They're not there right now. So this is something that we might want to consider planning ahead for if it happens. But nonetheless, your price floor would be around 1041. And then that upper line shows that about 1160 on where that call option would kick in. So if beans really want to run that much further, you're going to catch some of that higher move. Really in between that 1065 and that 1160 area is kind of no man's land. You're going to kind of be giving it up at least on those 5,000 bushels. As we wrap this thing up in here, we really what we like about this strategy is it's really easy to implement, and like we said, it transfers and limits your risk to the downside. We always feel that that's important for producers to highlight. Like we said, if the markets go higher, you either have these calls in place or you're going to have more bushels to sell. We can live with that. What we don't want to do is be stuck with open risk to the downside. And then, like we said, just ask yourself what your goal is, right? Do you want to be on board for a 30-cent move? Maybe you need to look at something a little bit closer to the money, or you just pass on this altogether. If you're looking to be on board for maybe a bigger move, that's where you can go a little bit further out of the money. You're going to have a little bit less in option premium, bring your price floor up. But again, it's only going to work if there's a significant move in the markets. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help. As always, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We always enjoy bringing you guys some of this content.